What's up, YouTube? This is James coming back at you with another informative video. I hope you guys are doing well out there on this midday week Wednesday. Doing really good myself. You know, back in the day, one of my favorite groups called the Isley Brothers made an album, and they named it Go For Your Guns. And they couldn't have been any more correct, even back then. You know, when they made that album, you know, it had a lot of nice grooves on it, but it always puzzled me as to why they named it Go For Your Guns. But as it will be today, we not only need to go for our guns, but we need to do our best to hold on to them. Because, as this title says here, Supreme Court to decide if police can warrantlessly raid home and seize guns from innocent citizens. That tells you everything right there, that they want to disarm the American, people. And I know for a fact that is not going to go well. Not with blacks, whites, Asians, you know what I mean, Italians, anybody, you name it, are not going to go for this shit right here. They're just not. This is the reason why, a lot of people didn't want Biden in office, okay? Because they said that's what he was, wanting to propose doing, and that's disarming the American public, okay? Now to get into this story, it says last week the Free Thought Project reported on HR 127, the most tyrannical gun bill ever produced. The bill would target the poor by forcing citizens to pay $800 per year to possess firearms that they are required to register. It also bans multiple legal guns and ammo types, turning tens of millions of Americans into felons overnight. While this bill is without a doubt the worst gun bill in history, it didn't lay out any guidelines for violating a citizen's Fourth Amendment right. Next month, however, the Supreme Court will be considering exactly that. Can cops enter a home to seize guns without a warrant? Okay? That escalated quickly. In March, the Supreme Court will hear the case of Caniglia versus Storm, which asks the questions of whether the community caretaking exception to the Fourth Amendment warrant requirement extends to the home. The community caretaker exception has already been recognized as an exception to the Fourth Amendment by the United States Supreme Court in Caddy versus Dombrowski, 413 U.S. 433 in 1973. The United States Supreme Court held that police officers did not violate the Fourth Amendment when they searched the trunk of a car that had been towed after an accident. Okay, the court acknowledged that, except in certain careful defense classes of cases, police cannot search private property without consent or a warrant. If emphasized, however, that there is a constitutional difference between house and cars. Since Caddy, there has been a whole host of cases that took this holding and created the doctrine of community caretaking. Caddy defined community caretaking activities as those totally divorced from the detection, investigation, or acquisition of evidence relating to the violation of a criminal statute. In other words, as long as an officer might reasonably think that a warrantless search will elevate a danger to the community, the search is considered constitutional. This was in vehicles, not homes. While caretaker exception has been applied to vehicles, the idea of applying it to homes and allowing cops to seize guns without a warrant is worrisome. In an article from Forbes, the case of Cagniglio versus Storm is explained. And it goes to say here, Mr. Callio was arguing with his wife and melodramatically put an unloaded gun on the table and said, "Shoot me now and get it over with." His wife called a non-emergency number for the police, who arrived shortly thereafter. The police disagreed about whether Mr. Cagneglio was acting normal or agitated, but they convinced him to take an ambulance to the local hospital for evaluation. The police did not accompany him. While he was on his way to the hospital, Miss Cagneglio told the police that her husband kept 2 guns in the home. The police decided to search his home for the guns without obtaining a warrant. Miss Cagneglio's consent to have the police search their home was legally negated because the police untruthfully told her that her husband had consented to the seizure of any guns. See, they lied. And this is where you're going to get a lot of trouble, a lot of problems behind this shit if they were to push a bill through like this, okay? It goes on to say, though, the police located and seized the 2 guns. Ms. Cagneglio sued for violation of the 4th Amendment, right to privacy, and his 2nd Amendment, right to keep handguns in the home for self-protection. See, this is what it's coming down to. The violation of American rights to weaponize themselves. And you have to wonder why they're doing this. I can tell you why, but I have my own theory, but I'm going to keep it to myself. Let's just say that there are some things that's coming, and I believe that they want us to be basically sitting ducks for. I'm going to just say that, So it's very important to fight, a situation like this, But to continue, the case have been making its way through the courts, with the courts ruling in favor of the warrantless searches. The federal court just below the Supreme Court, the First Circuit Court of Appeals, ruled that it is fine and dandy for cops to warrantlessly search your home and take your guns because they need elbow room to provide safety. Okay? But this is what I have to ask. Who's searching the police homes to take their guns? Because as we know, there are many cops that's on the police force, basically just felons themselves with a badge. Okay? But nobody talks about that. Now to continue. At its core, the community caretaking doctrine is designed to give police elbow room to take appropriate action when unforeseen circumstances present some transient hazards that requires immediate attention. Understanding the core purpose of the doctrine leads inexorably, to the conclusion that it should not be limited to the motor vehicle context. Threats to individuals and community safety are not confined to the highways, the court wrote. As Forbes points out, unlike the exigent circumstances and emergency aid exceptions, the community caretaking exceptions is not limited to circumstances where there is no time to apply for a warrant. And the question of what sort of caretaking fails, let me say that again, what sort of caretaking falls under the exception is extremely vague. Will the police be able to use it to, for example, conduct warrantless searches of political protesters' homes to make sure they aren't planning on violent behavior at their next political rally? Okay? Now, here's the deal. I don't think that they should do this because look what happened, with Breonna Taylor. No knock warrants. Look how that shit went. You see what I mean? See? But I digress. In conclusion here, it goes on to say, we have already seen tech giants like Facebook hand over private messages of those who talk about the events of January 6th. If the ruling is upheld, it could pave the way for cops to raid the home of those who engage in peaceful discourse. based solely on the premise that violence might happen. All right. Well, President Biden has already labeled tens of millions of Americans who supported the pro-Trump rally in D.C. as terrorists. I agree with that. I agree with Biden on that. They definitely are terrorists. To continue just a few weeks later, and a DHS terror alert was issued for beliefs held by tens of millions of Americans, like those who oppose lockdowns or who were upset over the outcome of the election. We know who that shit was, who they are, Uh, with the slippery slope of this case, these views could easily be included in the elbow room granted to police to carry out their community caretaking and subsequently raid homes and seize guns with no warrant. Okay, hopefully SCOTUS knocks down this ruling and cooler heads prevail. However, at the rate this tyranny is unfolding in 2021, that is not likely. It's not very likely, that is. Okay. Well, people. Here it is. What we gonna do? First of all, we got certain people that's on front lines that's gonna basically fight this tooth and nail if this bill is passed. So we should stay out of the way of that. Now, frontline defense is penetrated, then we got to get ready for ourselves, if you know what I mean. Y'all tell me what y'all think about this particular article right here. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts, your views, and opinions on it. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. People, please remember to live your life as though we are being watched. Simply because we are. This is James, and I'm out. Peace.